Do you find that when you give your team members things to do that you're continually needing to fix them up? That they're not done good enough for you and there's a lot of work that you need to do again? Do people get confused when you give them things that they need to do? Well, I know this is a big problem and it definitely was one for me, and probably the main reason why I'm able to talk to you about it myself is that I was able to overcome that. So stick with me, because this week I want to round off our conversation around how we get our results by helping you to have an antidote to the problem. Hi, this is Grant Herbert, leadership and sustainable performance coach. And today I want to round off our conversation around getting your results in a different way by teaching you a 3-step process for passing the baton. This month we've been talking about shifting from doing everything to getting results through others. And it's one of the major challenges that leaders have, because it's a fine line between still getting results from your own efforts, which we all still need to do, but then trusting others to represent you with their efforts as well. You know, we talked about the fact that the reason this happens, and the reason why it doesn't make any sense when you've got so much work that you need to get done and you're always so busy and overwhelmed, but you still don't give it to others, is all around the psychology and the work that we do in your identity. It's all around trust, and it's all around the triggering of those 3 universal fears: the fear of not belonging, the fear of not being enough, and the fear of not being liked or loved. And when you pass off things to other people and you allow them to represent you, what that can do is make you feel like you've lost control. As I said last week, it's not what happens, it's what you make it mean. And if you make it mean that giving your team members things that they could do that you used to do actually took away from you and your value, that it exposed you to a greater opportunity of not being approved and accepted and liked, and other people's opinion comes in, then you need to be able to make those shifts that we talked about last week. You need to be able to change the way that you think about that. You know, last week we talked about getting rid of delegation, right? That's an old school term. We don't delegate as leaders, we actually develop. Having the opportunity to teach new skills to people who don't have them is about developing individuals and the capacity of our team. So now that we've shifted our thinking around that and we go, you know what? I need to develop my team. I need to teach them stuff. And in fact, when I teach them stuff, it means we're going to be able to distribute the workload more evenly. And it's not taking from me at all. It's actually me passing the baton. So some of me goes with that, and I have a role which is now different to the one that I used to have. So I love processes. And although I'm not naturally process driven, I've learnt to make sure that I have process around things so that I know exactly what steps to take. When you have that certainty of knowing exactly what you need to do and when you need to do it and how you need to do it, a lot of that fear goes away. So I want to give you what's worked for me. And I encourage you then to try that. Now, as I said, you've got to bring this new mindset with you. You've got to have a thinking that says, I'm not delegating, I am developing. I'm not giving away, I'm adding to. So bringing that along, let's now look at the process. Now, as I said, there are 3 parts to this process. And before we get into the actual process, there's another level of understanding that I want us to have. And that is the difference between giving somebody a task and giving them the responsibility. As a leader, there are things that you still need to keep the responsibility for. So at your level, you're responsible to whoever you're responsible to for your team producing the results. So one of the places that this can go awry is when carte blanche, you just go, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to give that to somebody else. And I've done that. And what that does is it puts a pressure on the other person who are sometimes not ready for that pressure. So it's not about having the whole thing go away. It's about teaching someone else to do the skills and incrementally allowing them to take more of that ownership around that particular skill. The other thing we need to understand is there's a task, but there's also something that's bigger than a task. There might be a project, or there might be an overall division or responsibility. So we've got to make sure that we're only teaching people to do things that are at their level, and incrementally, as I said, allowing them to grow into that. I like to, as a leader, also put a little bit of a stretch in there. I know in my military career, I never kept at the level I was trained for very often at all. I was always put in roles that were above my pay grade, and it allowed me to stretch, but it was a little bit scary. And sometimes I had the support and sometimes I didn't. So there's an element of being able to stretch people as well. But you've got to make sure you understand them. You've got to make sure that you're doing that in a way that's going to help them and support them. All right, so now we've built that foundation, let's talk about the 3 steps that we need to go through. So the first step is watch me do it. So people are visual or auditory, or they learn things certain ways. And the best way that they learn is by demonstration. So rather than just explaining it to them, let them watch you do it. Let them see what it is that you do and ask questions and get certainty and clarify and reflect back to you what it is that they think that you're doing and why you're doing it. And that's another key area, having an understanding at a higher level. Where does this fit in? Why is this so important? So that's step 1. They learn by watching you. The second step is let's do it together. So whatever the task is, get them involved in the task. Get them to have some input into it. And that is a incremental way of them taking some ownership of that new task. You're there to guide and support and fill in the blanks. But then the third step is you do it, and I'm here to support you, and we'll talk about it when it's done. So 3 steps to take a task that someone needs to do that you used to do and pass the baton over to someone else. Watch me, you do it with me watching, and you do it, and we'll talk about it when you're finished. By doing it this way, incrementally, they are learning new skills. They're making mistakes, which is good in the development process. They're able to ask questions. You're able to give feedback. And what it does is it takes away the scary stuff for them, but it also takes away some of that scary stuff for you, because you incrementally can see the value in them doing it. You can see that it helps you, but you can also see that they're capable of doing it. Well, delegation is gone. We're now developing our people. And with that shift in mindset and this 3-step process, you're going to be able to go from being overwhelmed and overworked to having an even distribution of workload where everyone feels valued and everyone works together and there's a high level of trust. Well, that's the 9 crucial shifts for this year. And in fact, I normally say that's it from me for another week. And whilst it is, it's actually it from me for the year. I'm taking some time off and I'm going to be back in January. I'm going to start a new conversation around helping you to be a different leader of yourself, of the work that you need to get done, and of other people. Have an amazing end of the year, and may 2025 be filled with opportunities for growth and learning, and may it be prosperous and happy in every single way. I'll see you then.